Okay, so I'm not sure what happened there. I think I was kicked out. And so hopefully everybody's getting back in. I apologize, not sure what happened there, but we are back on, back on. And so let's just continue with our questions. Please go ahead and drop your Q&As back in the Q&A. Again, I apologize, something happened and we got kicked off, but we're back in business. So go ahead and drop your questions. I was able to answer a few of your questions, but go ahead and drop your questions in the Q&A and we will continue on with this with this live. So I do have some questions again for folks that submitted during registration. So definitely come on in, guys. Sorry, not sure what happened with being kicked out of the Zoom, but go ahead and drop your questions. If I didn't answer your question, go ahead and drop it back in the Q&A. And I will definitely try and get to that question while we're here on the call. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that came through for registration. So one of the questions that came up, and I think this one is actually a really good one, and it may probably apply to everybody in a sense, is how can I stay motivated? How do I stay motivated in this job search? And so the thing that I highly recommend is community. Community, again, with the understanding that in-person connections are out of the question right now, you definitely still need to be a part of a community. Okay, so there are Slack channels out there. There are groups out there, lots of different groups, LinkedIn groups, Facebook groups, industry specific groups. Like if you're into data science or if you're into user design, there are groups specifically for those particular areas. And so you want to make sure that you stay connected to a community and come to things like this, come to webinars, come to, try to engage as much as possible in things that are really giving you strategies for moving forward. If you aren't, like I said, the more you kind of sit and think about the problem of, our job's going to be available and, am I going to be laid off? What's going to happen? The more you sit and think about that, the more it drains your energy and the more, it demotivates you, just to be quite honest with you, if you're constantly looking at the problem. So make sure that you are a part of a community, multiple communities. As a matter of fact, one of the first things that I personally did to stay connected to community is I went and found 2 to 3 communities, groups, Zoom groups that I could be a part of, and we meet weekly. And so I have at least 3 groups where I'm meeting people in a group setting where we have the opportunity to talk back and forth, share ideas, brainstorm, for me personally, because again, you have to have that community and have to have someone who has ideas and things that are going to be helpful to you during this time. So consistency, again, don't stop doing the things that you're doing related to your job search. Once you have your career strategy kind of built out, you want to be consistent. Just keep working your plan. That's one way, and stay connected to community so that you can get that boost of confidence, so that you can get motivated, so people can speak into your life and help you to, kind of get to stay encouraged. We all need encouragement during this time. And so you're not going to get it just from kind of sitting at home. Netflix is not necessarily going to be encouraging to you. So you have to get around people and get engaged to stay motivated. Okay, so that's one way to stay motivated. Make sure you're getting involved with community. Okay, looks like I have a couple more Q&As come up. So let me go ahead and take a look at that. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to answer this one. It says, I've had 2 companies and 2 roles paused during the interview process. What's an appropriate time to reach back out and try to stay top of mind to them? That is an excellent question. Okay, and so let's just kind of, the reason why probably companies are pausing is, again, so that they can get their bearings. If you want to keep in mind that companies have had to transition their whole processes during this time, sending people remote and trying to get everybody set up and making sure that their business is going to remain viable. So patience really is the key. You just want to keep in mind, they're trying to keep their business on track. And so they definitely need the hires. It's just that they're trying to get their systems set up. So patience is the key. What I would say is, if it was paused, traditionally, we would say 7 to 10 days. I would say that rule still applies. I would give them the full 10 days, 10 business days, meaning that's approximately 2 weeks. And just reach back out and just let them know, I just want you to know that I'm definitely still interested. I know that the company is probably transitioning right now with everything that's going on with COVID-19, but please let me know if there's anything I can do to, any questions I can additionally ask. And again, what would be an appropriate amount of time to reach back out again. So I would ask them directly, when can I reach back out to you? Just to kind of see what the process is or where we stand in the interview process. But from the day that you got paused, I would give it about, like I said, that 7 to 10 business days to reach back out, let them know you're still interested, and ask how they would like you to begin reaching out to them during this time, understanding that they are still in transition and flux as well. And so that I would just keep that on a tickler and continue to reach out to them and ask that question. But yes, don't give up. Don't stop following up. Be appropriate. So the 7 to 10 business days, closer to the 10, I would say, kind of given the situation right now, but keep following up, because follow up definitely will keep you top of mind. That will definitely keep you top of mind. So that would be my recommendation for that. But keep applying. Again, keep applying. I wouldn't stop. Just if they're on a pause right now, I would definitely keep applying and keep that job search going, keep that momentum going, so that your mind stays engaged. But definitely make sure to keep that follow-up going. Okay. All right. Okay, and so another question that has come up is, if I apply for a position at a company and know the hiring manager, can I forward my resume to that person in case my resume is overlooked with the applicant tracking system? That is an excellent question. And just to be honest with you, you would do that under any circumstances, under the best of circumstances. That is what you would do. The applicant tracking system, you never want to rely on the applicant tracking system as the sole source of getting through to a company. Again, the way these tracking systems are set up, unless you're like a very high match, unless you're like honestly 70, 80, 90% match to what a company is looking for, a lot of times a company, the ATS systems will not even pull you forward to be viewed by a hiring manager. So a lot of times when you're sending your application, you never even really know if it ever got looked at. A lot of times it's eliminated by the computer. And so if you have someone on the inside, you absolutely want to make sure that you send that resume through the hiring manager, or send that resume through your contact within the system, and ask that person if they'd be willing to forward that on to the hiring manager, or introduce you to the hiring manager so you can have a conversation about that. So yes, my my recommendation is never ever rely solely on an applicant tracking system as a way to get your application through. You always need to be networking and trying to actually find a person that can actually streamline or kind of fast track your resume through the system. Okay. So yes, if you apply for a company, definitely find the hiring manager, definitely find somebody who's working on the inside, and have them really fast track that, get that in a referral system, or get that in front of somebody's eyes that actually has the ability to make a decision. So that was an excellent question. Perfect. Okay. And so another question that came through the registration system is, do you think that we could see a trend where more jobs will now stay remote, thus opening up opportunities for applicants who live in one state to actually apply to a different state? And so that's an excellent question. Again, it's hard to know exactly how everything's going to play out. But again, a lot of employers, because they've been forced to do the remote thing, I would say that absolutely some of them are going to decide that, hey, this actually works better for our company model. Okay. And so that is going to be, I would say, definitely keep your eyes out for that. If remote work is something that you're interested in, then keep your eyes on what companies are doing after this all happens. Some companies, it may not work for their business model. And so they may have to go back, to actually a full on-site. But because all companies have had a taste of it, they will have probably an opinion about it, about how well it works. And so I would say right now, if you go out even on job boards right now, everything is starting remote. A lot of companies who are still hiring, obviously, are starting the employees off remote. and then they'll bring them on site once everything opens back up. And so I would say there's definitely that possibility that you will see more of a trend for companies where it works for their business model. You will see more of a trend where that is available. So keep your eyes open for that, because you're right. If you live in one state and you know, that's going to open up your options if you now have the ability to apply for remote positions in completely different states. So keep your eye on companies that to kind of see how that plays out. I would personally say, if you have building out a company list and having an idea of the industries that you are most interested in is really going to be a good idea during this time, because again, certain industries are going to be more impacted than other industries. And so even as you're thinking about kind of what you want to do and kind of how you want to move forward with your job search, it's super important to really keep your eye on which industries are going to be strong after this and which industries may not be as strong. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And so you want to kind of keep your eye on how all of that is going to play out so that you can kind of see how the remote situation is going to work out based on those companies. Okay, so that was a great question. Okay, so another question again that came through is, with the job market saturated with people looking for work, is this a good time to switch careers into fields that have been in high demand? Okay, and so I think this question again has to be qualified. When you say the job market is being saturated, again, you have to think about where really is the saturation happening. Okay, we know specifically that travel industries, hospitality, restaurants, okay, we know that specifically these industries have been hit hard. Okay, retail, we know these industries have been hit hard. And so when you think about what where the saturation is coming from, is it really in a field that you're interested in? Okay, so you'll want to just keep your eye on unemployment, statistics. Go to the government websites that kind of track unemployment and track like what industries are hit hard. And again, there are tools out there that are kind of laying out the industries that are hit hardest by this particular area. So if you find that your industry is not really one of the industries that has been impacted, that again, that may mean that there's some slowdown, there's some pauses, there's some freezes, but there's some industries that are going to be stronger after this particular situation, after this crisis arises. Okay, and there's some industries that are going to stay consistent and constant. So again, when you're thinking about saturation, you want to think about, is the saturation really happening in a market and an industry that you're a part of? Okay, pay attention to that. And then that is where you can kind of understand if it's a good time to switch careers. And, when you're thinking about switching careers, you want to think about long-term, is this an industry that's going to be sustainable? Is this industry here to stay? And if it is here to stay, then again, if you're a strong candidate for that particular industry, then absolutely, you should continue on with your job search. Again, just keep in mind everything that's going on, be aware of what's going on. But yes, now is as good a time as any, depending on the company and the industry. So again, that question needs some qualifiers. But again, if your industry, you want to do some research and just kind of see where your industry stands. Okay, perfect. One question that came up that I definitely want to make sure I answer is, should I lower my salary expectations during this period? Okay, so, I want to be clear about this. If you were a strong candidate before the crisis, then, you are a strong candidate now and you should be paid what you're worth. Okay, so if a company is about to go, again, let me answer this in a sense, because like I said, this has to be qualified. The fact of the matter is, no, you should not be lowering your salary expectations below what market dictates. In certain markets, depending on where you are, there is a market. There's a market for that particular skill. The market has defined kind of what the rate is for that. And so there is no need for you to go below market, because again, if a company is asking you to substantially reduce your salary expectations, then you have to kind of wonder, you might want to consider that could be a red flag. That is that company a viable company? Is that company strong financially? Okay, because again, companies are going to weather this storm through varying degrees. But again, if you are a top candidate, if you are a strong candidate in your field, there is no need to lower your salary expectation. Now, if you if you are new to a field and you feel like, you get with a company, and again, they're not asking you to lower your salary expectation, but you're new to a field and you want to break in, and you feel like, you know, you feel like accepting a lower salary is in your best benefit long term, because this allows you to get into the field, gain some valuable experience, and then go on to command the rate that you deserve, then that's a different story. Okay, but again, these rules would apply even outside of a crisis. But no, the simple answer to that question is you should not be lowering salary expectations. You should go in understanding what you're worth, understanding what you bring to the table. It's a win-win situation for both you and the employer, and strong companies are not asking you to lower your salary expectation. Now, some companies may have compensation raises and things like that on hold while they figure some things out. Again, that's a company by company scenario, and you have to kind of figure that out. Once you're inside the company. But in terms of accepting a role, you definitely want to go by the standard practices of doing your research, making sure you understand what the market is, understanding how your skills compare, in terms of, are you offering over and above what they've asked for, and kind of how you would fall in a salary under those conditions. So just wanted to make sure I address that. Salary should still be in play. Getting a fair and equitable salary is definitely still something you want to strive for. Okay. All right, let me see. Okay, so there's a couple questions on here that are not, I would say that based on the topic of overcoming obstacles with job search, I would say let's defer a couple of these questions till we get into more specific topics related to those questions, because again, we are right at the end of our time. And again, some of these questions, we really want to make sure we have the resources in place to answer very specific certification types of questions and things of that nature, or questions related to Springboard in general. So we'll definitely have additional lives that we're going to be doing where we'll get into those questions very specifically. So definitely want to encourage you to keep coming back to these AMAs, these career AMAs, so that again, we can be very intentional about asking those questions that are in alignment with the topic that we're bringing up right at that moment. But I do have a question here about what ATS system can we use for our resumes? Okay, so I'm going to answer that. Now, the ATS system, just keep in mind that ATS systems are systems that employers used. So employers use ATS systems to help them really kind of sort through and filter through what candidates are going to be the strongest candidates for the role they have in mind. They program their ATS systems with certain keywords and certain things that they're looking for to really kind of pull forward the candidates that are going to be strongest. Again, this is a time saver mechanism for employers. So when you ask what ATS system can we use for our resumes, what I will say is, while there's no ATS systems that I'm aware of, there are tools out on the market that allow you to put your resume in and actually put the exact job description that you're looking for, and it will rate you. It will give you a score, 40%, 50%, 70%. It will give you a score and tell you exactly where you're missing the mark based on that job description. And one that I've often recommended to people that I work with is called jobscan.co. So that's jobscan altogether.co. That is a tool that I have recommended, and people have had great success with being able to really put their resume in and really basically compare it to a specific job posting and get a score, as well as get recommendations for how to get their score up. Okay, so I do recommend, if you have a specific job in mind, then definitely do some research and find a tool like that or similar to that, and use that to make sure that your resume is really addressing, has the right keyword optimization, and will do well in an employer's ATS system. So that is something that you can definitely can use as an additional tool. Okay. All right. And then let me just kind of say, the last question here is how to accelerate the hiring process in a challenging economic environment. Okay. And so this question, again, a lot of people may be saying, hey, I've been sending out resumes, I've been applying, I've been reaching out to people, and I'm just not getting quick responses. And my answer to that is that that is the nature of a situation where, you are in flux, a situation where there is a crisis. And so again, going back to some resources, you definitely have to exercise patience during this time. The best way when you're thinking about accelerating the hiring process, there's no way for you personally to accelerate the hiring process. If you are a strong match, even if you are a 100% match to what the employer is looking for, if they have a process that they go through, then you just have to kind of work through their process. Let them know that you're interested, definitely keep in touch, have a follow-up strategy. And again, by a follow-up strategy, again, you want to be very appropriate with that. You do not want to be blowing people's email up every single day and reaching out to them across all of their social media, trying to get a hold of them. You want to be appropriate, reach out to them 7 to 10 days, as a kind of a cadence, a follow-up cadence, and let them know that you're definitely interested. But patience is something that's absolutely necessary during this time. There are some things you're just not going to be able to control. So while you're sitting at your computer waiting for the responses, you want to keep in mind, you put yourself in the other person's shoes. They're doing maybe the job of 2 people right now. Okay. They're still in the middle of trying to figure out and adjust and get things done in a remote work environment. Keep in mind that people that are in a remote work environment, they may have kids at home. They may be homeschooling. So everybody may be in the house. You want to keep in mind that this is not just about you. This is about all of us. This is about everybody. We're all in this together. And so you want to kind of step back a little bit. Even though you're anxious and excited about getting into a job, you want to think about the person that's on the other end and kind of some things that they may be going through or trying to adjust to in order to kind of keep things rolling. And so with that in mind, patience is the name of the game. It is the name of the game. And so accelerating the process, the only other way to really, in some sense, accelerate the process is, again, is to make sure you have connections. Make sure you have connections at every company that you have an interest in, and reach out to those connections and ask them what's going on so that you can kind of have some insights into what's going on. They may be able to share with you, this is what we're doing now. This is where we're at now. And so that may give you some tips and some strategies for how to position yourself better. But again, it really is about just kind of really understanding that we're all in this together. We're all trying to adjust and get things back on track and trying to get things back to a normal. And so definitely want to make sure that you keep that in mind. And, the networking pieces are that's another thing that you always want to add into any applying that you are doing. That is the best way to really, if you're talking about acceleration, that's the best way to, if you could accelerate it. Make sure that you're getting in contact with someone in person via LinkedIn or on some social media platform. Okay. All right. So guys, we are just about here at the end of our time. Again, I want to remind you that we will be doing these career AMAs for the next several weeks. And so if I did not have a chance to get to your question, again, definitely make sure you keep coming back and asking your questions. Again, we are going to based on the type of questions we're getting in, we're trying to make sure we take the bulk of those questions. And if we're not able to answer them on this AMA, we're trying to then roll them over into the next AMA so that we can answer those questions more specifically based on the topic. So if you did not get your question answered today, then definitely make sure that you come back to an AMA in following weeks. Again, next week's will be at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And again, we'll be coming on again to take more questions. So go ahead, make sure you get registered for next week. Drop those questions in, and we will be happy to make sure we get that in for you. And also, just as a reminder, if you weren't able to, stay for this entire call, or again, we had a little glitch there, a little technical glitch. If you missed anything, weekly recordings will be available to those of you who registered. So if you want to go back and review some of the things that we've been saying, make sure you check your email, and those weekly recordings will be available to you if you registered for this particular for this particular AMA. So thank you so much, everybody, for jumping on board. Again, we are here for you. We are excited about the opportunity to help you. Cindy, it's my pleasure. So happy to be here. And so join us again next week. Let others that you know who may be in a similar situation know about this. And we'll be on here to, again, answer those questions. And again, be a source of encouragement to you as you move through this season. So guys, have an amazing rest of your day. And we hope to see you next week, okay? All right, take care, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.